Hey everybody, welcome to NextGen ProServ podcast, a podcast where I bring on professional services leaders and industry disruptors. I'm joined by my buddy Adam. Hey Adam, thanks for joining.
Molly.
It's a really great Friday morning. We have our cups of coffee. We are so excited to get started on a little podcast today focused on AI and the wave that's impacting our lives, but then also next gen and professional services leaders who are reaching back to help young professionals stay sharp and learn a thing or two. So, mind introducing yourself for everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Adam Schilke. I run our global services team at Smartsheet. I've been with Smartsheet for about 8 years, and prior to joining Smartsheet, I had a background in management consulting. And I'm super excited to be here today to speak to you, Molly. There's a lot that's happening right now, so lots to unpack, lots to talk about, and looking forward to it.
I love it. I love it. I mean, even just to jump us off on the right foot, what's going on at Smartsheets today? We worked together on a optimization project a couple of years ago where, your quote to cash process was brought back up to speed, and we call those optimization projects. So we go through your accounts and opportunities, projects, time. How's the organization running from a professional services lens? And then a little bit about AI. What's the team doing?
Yeah. I mean, there's sort of there's a lot happening, and I think I make that statement with the knowledge that I think that's probably how many services leaders, technology leaders are feeling today.
Mhm.
Um, it's the business is continuing to grow. There's really great things that are happening. I think that if I were to sort of kind of look at the world through sort of a macro lens. Right now, the majority of what we're focused on, and I'll sort of bring this into services specifically, is how do we leverage AI capabilities, both native capabilities, like how does that sort of work within our Smartsheet platform, but also there's so many different technologies out there. How do we bring that into our environments? How do we become more efficient? How do we leverage that to innovate? Really, it's about this sort of massive transformation, and there
Mhm.
are so many different facets to it that it can feel overwhelming. But that is, how we do that, how we think about that, and where we sort of adopt these things. That is, I'd say, the primary focus of the
Mhm.
business. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so fantastic. The how, the who, the what, the why. How many different kind of forums are you going through as a leadership team? I'm imagine this is happening at executive level, management. You
Yep.
bringing in individual contributor ideas. How are you kind of shaping this vision?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think I'll sort of focus on PS specifically because I think that in and of itself is enough
Yeah.
um, to kind of put off to the side and speak to. But I think that for us, our team started on this journey probably a year ago, and the way it kind of looked and felt was very much a sort of a crowdsourcing effort, right? So you have different pockets of capabilities within PS, and you've got some technical folks that were probably ahead of how to be thinking about MCP servers and how to write prompts and how to do all of these things, and so I would say in the most simplistic sense we started with let's open up chats, let's
Hmm.
create rooms for people to kind of engage one another, share things that are happening, share those best practices, and even just like here's a prompt I wrote, right? Go ahead and take this and kind of move this into Claude or Chat GPT or whatever, Gemini, whatever you use. And I think that gave team members the opportunity to explore. And so there's that happening, and then as that's happening, we as a leadership team are looking at this and saying, okay, what are things that we can leverage today that can help to kind of replace some of the manualness of the work that we were doing historically. And again, that's not I say this like it's super easy. It's there's a lot of, from a governance perspective, from a security perspective, there's all sorts of things that we do. So I don't want to just like pass over that and make it sound like it goes from
Yep.
crowdsourcing into production, right? There's a
Hmm.
lot of hoops that we jump through, but you start to look at that and you start to kind of formalize or codify an approach around these tools and around these capabilities. Um, and so I think that's probably where we are today. And I think the next step in this journey is okay, how do we how does that connect to to the work that we do with customers in terms of things like developing agentic workflows, things like building advisory capabilities around how our customers should be leveraging some of our native AI features. How should they be thinking about AI governance and security? How should they be thinking about token usage? All of these things that are just very kind of heavy and new sort of top topics and ideas. And really it's about adoption. Like how do you get customers adopting all of these capabilities? And so that's probably, I would say, where we're focusing on today. Like we're starting to institute this stuff internally. How do we start to think about how we move that towards more of a customer facing type of
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. And as a services leader globally, are you noticing anything different regionally? Anything from that standpoint for listeners today?
I think what I'm noticing, and I don't know that it's, I call it sort of the great equalizer. It's not,
Hmm.
I think it spans all regions. I think there's just an element of, I think people are nervous. Like I think everybody's coming into this and feeling like this is a whole different language that I need to learn. This is, and it's hard to sort of get out of it. Like you read about the influence of AI in the news, like you see it every day. It's sort of front and center. It's what leaders are talking about. Hey, we have to transform. We have to be first movers, that type of thing. So I think that what I've observed is you have a lot of people that are showing up and saying, I want to be a part of this. I understand the importance of it. I'm just so nervous. I don't know what to do. It's like taking all of the things that I've done for the last however many years, and now you're telling me that I need to think differently and change
Mhm.
um, and so that's sort of what I'm observing, and I think it's a natural part of like the change process. The thing that I keep reminding our teams is we're all in this together. Like meaning nobody has built the playbook. Like everybody to a degree, you know, is starting at kind of the same point. We're all trying to figure out like how this works, how this is going to manifest in a very real way. And so you can be nervous, and I think you can ask a lot of questions, and you can certainly have some of that anxiety, but you also have a great opportunity to lean in, to learn, to ask questions, to be vulnerable, and to help build ultimately like the playbooks and the structures and the things that will probably carry us into the future. So it's trying to get people into the mindset that like trust me, you're not behind. We're all probably where we should be, and now
Yeah.
this is a great opportunity, and let's try to seize that opportunity.
Hmm. Yeah, I spoke about nervousness with another guest on our podcast. It's a thread that's going across every conversation. And I talked a lot about creativity in that.
Yep.
And it's very hard when your job function doesn't include creativity today, and now you're allowed to be creative. And I love that you said that vulnerability piece as well, because acknowledging this is where I'm at, this is where I think I would love to learn. Sometimes that's not welcomed in every role and responsibility. So now that we're seeing AI introduced in every job function, it's now this universal skill set that everyone's expected to learn to speak about,
Yep.
execute on, and when you're customer facing, right, teaching clients how to do it too. And so it's a very scary thing to do when you're new. So kind of that next gen feel. You are new in your consulting career and you are expected to consult on topics that are emerging and innovative. It's very hard to be the expert in the room when it's evolving.
It is.
Um,
It is.
so that's something that I'm really focused on, kind of changing the narrative with young consultants
Yep.
and reflecting on when you're in a services role, what advice are you giving your team today when they are customer facing, and the journey customers are on together with you as you are adopting new frameworks and emerging new technologies, and kind of that pause moments when you all say, okay, what have we accomplished here? And where are
Yeah.
we truly going? I'm sure the consulting practice has changed in services.
It has, and I think there's two points that you sort of circled around that I kind of pull out of there. One is what do I tell young consultants today who are coming in and saying, hey, how do I really grasp this technology that is changing at an accelerated pace, and how do I show up to a customer and provide that credibility and that, and part of it is, I'll be honest with them. I'll say it is okay to fail and to learn, like especially now. Like, this is one of those things where outside of handfuls of people, like nobody is out in front on understanding like the changing, how this is changing so quickly. And so it's okay to be out in front of customers and to be in having a little bit more of that testing mentality. Like, let's get out there, let's have these conversations, let's
Mhm.
ask questions, and I may not know every answer, and that's okay, right? Like, and then the other thing I sort of reflect on, and I get to see this every day, is like, we're so deeply ingrained in tech that again, it can feel like we're behind because it's the language that we all speak. You go out and speak to an average customer, they are also trying to sort of learn this and understand this and navigate through this. And I would say the maturity, more broadly speaking, of customers around, how they understand AI and what the capabilities are and how it exists in their environment, is also very unknown, right? So it kind of helps to it helps to kind of normalize and maybe make things a little bit like, oh, okay, it's we're having these conversations, and that's just what it is. It's a conversation. Like, I'm trying to understand problems that you are trying to solve in your customer environment. You don't understand. I mean, you don't have all the answers around how AI is going to influence that, or what the impact is going to be, or how to move forward with that. So I think I think the most important thing is to go out there and to have those conversations and to ask the questions and to dive deeper into understanding. But I also, I tell our team of consultants, like, I don't want you to feel like you have to have all the answers, because nobody does. And if those are the expectations or the pressure that you're putting on yourself when you walk into these customer meetings, that's a lot. And especially now with this stuff, like, it would be really hard to carry that weight, because it's kind of unreasonable, right? At
Mhm.
this, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then also in the lens of how you have them approach customer engagements, can you share a little bit about your team's methodology for services?
Yeah.
I think in general, folks are looking at their playbooks and how do they run engagements and customer lifetime value.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about these days?
Yeah, what I try to do is, we're trying to sort of focus on the things that we do well. So we have a lot of consultants, and when you sort of understand our technology and you understand the value that they bring to our customers today, a lot of it is around business processes. So it's understanding, like, what is the core business process, what is the problem that you're trying to solve, how do we help to drive efficiencies within that process, and then sort of marry that to our technology. And so I always say, like, focus on the bread and butter. That's what we do well. Then we start to overlay some of these capabilities, and how we think about the areas where AI can help to drive greater efficiency or drive greater value, or better solve the problems that we were solving previously. So don't go right from, okay, this is what we used to do, and now we're going to change everything overnight, and we're going to have an entirely different playbook, and it's going to look entirely different, and we have to understand it by tomorrow. Do what you do well, and then we will start to kind of layer in some of these concepts and capabilities in a much more sort of comfortable sequencing, so that you're kind of doing two things at the same time. You're like, I know how to advise a customer, and I know how to live in this world. Now I'm bringing in some new concepts, and I know how to kind of bring that into the conversation, and then that'll continue to evolve. And as our native AI capabilities, as our ability to kind of understand how customers leverage these tools evolves, you may see the way we engage with customers change, and all of a sudden you may get to a point a year from now where some of that is some of the AI sort of language and technology is more pervasive in how we service our customers. But again, I think there has to be a bit of a journey there, and sequencing to value there, that our consultants need to kind of progress through. and not just like pull the carpet out from under them and say, you used to do it this way, now you have to do it this way. That's a
Sure.
really, really hard thing to have to do.
Yeah, we talk about unlearning a lot.
Yep.
And especially when you are adopting new features, it's very easy to say, oh, upgrade the system and turn this on and you're good to go.
Yep.
Um, and the pacing is super important. I like that you talk about that speed. Speed to
Yep.
value is so important when you are implementing software, of
Yep.
course.
Yep.
But stepping through the adoption in a really intelligent way that we see day in, day out, over and over for our customers, it's really hard to put yourself in the seat of the customer then when you're young and new in
Yeah.
consulting to say,
Yeah.
okay, this is
Yeah.
going to be a journey and let's go one meeting at a time, one conversation at a time to drop those little breadcrumbs to get to that aha moment.
Yeah.
And the nervousness is causing, from what I can see, consultants having pressure to have the right answer right away because you're
Yep.
nervous. You want to say the right thing. And it's actually quite the opposite. You want your customer to find the answer themselves and say it themselves.
Yep.
So then when
Yep.
it comes from the voice of the customer, there it is. There's that aha moment. So
Yep.
I'm putting a lot of time and energy into thinking about where I was when I was starting in this, and what questions were I asking in meetings and where
Yeah.
were we uncovering things from clients where you could tell they were ready to answer their own question, but you have to allow them the time and space to get there, to adopt what you're trying to steer
Yeah.
them towards. When it comes to steering those engagements as well, are there any common artifacts that you see the team be successful with in your delivery methodology? Like we talk about playbooks a little bit or upgrade strategies. And do you think those will also get disrupted with the introduction of AI and different solutions there? How much traditional do you want to keep? And how disruptive do you think you may be this year?
Yeah, I think I think we're where we are heavily focused on within our own methodologies. Again, like let's try to assess what I would consider to be some of the non-value add, some of the manual stuff that we're doing, because when you talk about, I know it sounds silly, but when you're talking about things like building out decks, when you're talking about things like, it's like a lot of that stuff can be you can be agentified, right? Like there are capabilities now where you can pull all of that data together and beautify it in a slide, and it's like 4 minutes versus the hour or 2 hours that it used to take. So I think from a practical standpoint, like we're going through the methodology top to bottom and just saying like where were all the manual sort of uh, workflows or things that we were doing, and then can we replace that? Like, is there a more efficient way to do that? Then we can layer more value into the work that we're doing with customers because we're spending more time with them versus some of the manual stuff that was happening. The to kind of tie it back to maybe back to AI a little bit, like one of the things that we're also heavily focused on is our maturity models. And I think that as we are engaging with customers, the one thing we want to be really clear on is like let's make sure that we're meeting the customer where they're at. And so let's really dial in our maturity models and make sure that as we're engaging, we're asking the right questions, we're understanding again, all of the security nuances and things like that to be able to progress a customer through the journey based on, again, what their capabilities are, not where we think they should be, but where they are in actuality. I think that's always a risk if you get too far out in front and start to kind of speak a language that customers aren't ready to speak of or speak about. And then you risk so many things. Like there's the value piece, but there's also just adoption. There's also usability. There's a lot of things that I think are impacted if you're not aligned to the customer's timeline. And going back to like your earlier statement around consultants feeling like they have to have all the answers. I will say one of the things that I observe is when we are working with customers, like how early on they are. So like we're both learning from each other. We are asking the questions as consultants, but I think it's prompting responses and sort of a thought process that a lot of our customers have not. Like they're like, that's a great question. I hadn't even thought about that. That's not even where I am right now. So there's some comfortability in that because it's again, you don't have to have the answer if again the starting point for the customer is still very early on in this AI transformation journey.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see where all of this goes. And when we loop back to these chats 6 months from now,
Yeah.
what did we wish we had tackled first and
Yep.
wish we had to restart or go back? Because
Yeah.
I do think our methodologies absolutely will change. It would be really short-sighted of us to think that our standard project kickoff,
Yep.
our QBRs, our maturity models, the way that we walk through these projects will or won't change. And I wonder from services, leading with outcomes first.
Yep.
I keep seeing, software as a service is dead, it's service as software.
Yep.
And but being a thought leader right now is super important. But then I wonder if that's going to come from the services side or customer demands. So even when it comes to that, the engagements that you're seeing with your clients today, what are the new demands as a result of the introduction of AI, and how are you responding to those?
Yeah, I think, and again, I think this will evolve over time. So I think the demands today will change as more customers become comfortable with this posture. Today, a lot of it is just around security, right? So I think anytime we enter into a room, like the number one question is like, how are you leveraging my data? What are the help me understand the technical nuances and capabilities of what you're trying to do and how you're doing it. And I think there's and I get it. Like I think every customer, depending on sort of where they are in the hierarchy, like there is just massive concern that they're going to try to adopt something, or they're going to try to be innovative or get ahead of this, and it's going to cause some data leak or security incident or thing like that.
Mhm.
And so that is a lot of what we're focusing on right now, is how to better equip our consultants, to partner with our CISO, to partner with our teams internally to help answer those questions and get customers past that. I'll almost call it stage one, right?
Mhm.
Because the ability to unlock a lot of these capabilities and a lot of this value happens past that first stage, and that is I think you kind of go into these engagements and you think, oh, we're well past that. Now we're into this place where we're really designing and innovating and leveraging, and it's like, nope, I want to, like, let's start at brass tacks, like security, 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 and I get it, right? So that's a lot of what we're focused on today and
Okay.
thinking about today.
Yeah. It's
But
very
it'll
interesting you say that. One of my buddies came on the podcast last week. His episode should be right near yours. Big data and security compliance guy out of the state of Michigan. He's up on everything.
Yep.
New legislation, the trends, the feedback, all over the internet, reading what other people are experiencing so that they can share where their backs are up against a wall and what to look out for. So I'd love to make that introduction. Another great reason why the podcast exists.
I would love it. I would like, again, it's one of those things I'm trying to wrap my head around it. But
Right.
yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
lot.
And especially for on the services side to know when to pause, right? Not waiting for the customer to ask those questions, but then also now it's one of our key requirements when
Yep.
starting engagements. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. I mean, also before we wrap, I'd love to ask what advice you have to your younger self for our
Advice.
next gen listeners who say, wow, I want to be just like Adam someday.
Yeah. Well, I would love that. If anyone's listening and they want to be like me, they should just reach out. I'm happy to connect. But look, I one of the things I always go back to is I look at sort of how I came into this world, and in my prior life, I was a management consultant, and I've always felt very strongly about the capabilities and sort of the attributes that I was able to pull from my consulting background into my world today. And I don't think you don't have to be a consultant. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. I think that for me, consulting got me thinking about things differently. It got me comfortable with ambiguity. It got me comfortable with asking questions and feeling okay asking questions. And I'm a big sort of a five whys type of guy, like go deep, go deep, go deep, ask, ask, ask. And so I think that just those sort of attributes and qualities today are as important for young professionals looking to get into services as like anything else that's. So again, it doesn't have to come from kind of a consulting background, but I think that as you and I are talking about the influence of AI, how quickly things are changing, asking questions and being okay with ambiguity, I think are two of the most important sort of attributes that any individual needs to have,
Hmm.
right? It's the pace, the acceleration is just so it's incredible, and so you have to be okay operating in that gray area, or else this can become really challenging. So what I would offer up to any young professional is whatever you're doing, learn to be okay with ambiguity, learn to ask a lot of questions, be inquisitive. Learning is important. All of those things kind of coming together. It's I think a really good uh, it's a really good approach for how to think about evolving your professional career going forward.
Yeah, I love that. And life in general, right? Just a
Yeah,
little bit of empathy. I love to see it.
absolutely, absolutely,
Well, thank
absolutely.
you so much for joining NextGen ProServ. We were really excited to have you, and I'm looking forward to the next chat where we follow up, see how things are going for you too.
I love it. Thank you so much, Molly. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.